To put it simply, is whenever you have Jira and you would like to work with another team using another software like Azure DevOps, like ServiceNow, Asana, Monday, Salesforce, or plenty of other solutions, you can use our solution to close the gap to make sure that you can collaborate with those people using different tools. So this is what we do.
What was the motivation behind, like, I feel like if you could have solved any problem in the world, you picked the hardest problem to solve.
We help people work in different platforms in a very efficient way.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian. Today I got Jacek from Getint. Now, Jacek, you play a special role in my life because way back at the beginning of time, and by the beginning of time I mean like 2 years ago, you were one of the first people that interviewed me when I was first getting started. So our history goes back way back. So Jacek, thanks for coming on here, and I'm excited to talk to you and get to know you a little bit more.
Hello, Alex. Thanks for having me. I really that we were having back then, and the growth that you have, the amount of people that are following you, the content that you create is amazing, and I'm very happy to be a part of this journey at any point.
Yeah, it's interesting how this whole thing has been playing out. I think maybe we can reminisce a little bit because there's not a lot of people that were there at the beginning. Like there's a lot of people right now, but there's not a lot of people that were there like on day one. I think Chris Cook being one of them, you being another, right? But there's a few people that were kind of there when we're first getting started. And so maybe this would be a good episode to kind of reminisce on the last 2 years of growth. We can look at your growth, our growth, and see where we're at. So 2 years ago, you had your podcast, right? Are you still doing that? Are you still doing those interviews?
I would love to, but since the company is growing pretty fast, I don't really have time for it. Now we added more people and to my team, so hopefully I will have time to make more of those. Uh, yeah, so that's when it comes to those interviews. I really enjoyed doing them. Uh, but, unfortunately, the time was
So
uh, yeah.
so let's talk about two things from that statement then, right? One is, what was the driver behind? Why did you start doing the interviews back
Mhm.
then?
So the reason for it is that I really like this ecosystem, and as our company is doing integrations with a lot of different platforms, Atlassian and the Jira and all the ecosystem is, from my perspective, really special, and mostly because of the people in the whole ecosystem. So when I started, when I joined the ecosystem like 10 years ago or something, one of the things I really liked from the very beginning was this very friendly atmosphere that everyone knows each other, everyone could talk to each other. And along those years, this slightly changed. Uh, Suddenly, there's a lot of partners, a lot of vendors, a lot of companies, a lot of different people, and I thought that we lost this friendship, this opportunity to know each other, this opportunity to see how it was back then. So I wanted to bring back this spirit and like to let people know people behind the scenes. Uh, so that was mostly what was the reason. And I saw you doing the interviews, and I think you're doing this even better than I was. So I enjoyed listening to the conversations with Chris, who I really like as well, with Owen, who I know as well. And I think yeah, that's the right place to do it.
Awesome, yeah. So then I'm realizing that we're like, hey, we're talking about you're in this ecosystem for 10 years, the amicability of this ecosystem, but what exactly are you the co-founder of? What does your company do? What do you do?
So as Getint, we do collaborations. To put it simply, is whenever you have Jira and you would like to work with another team using another software like Azure DevOps, like ServiceNow, Asana, Monday, Salesforce, or plenty of other solutions, you can use our solution to close the gap, to make sure that you can collaborate with those people using different tools, either within the same company or like contractors or any other company, or just bring data from one tool to another if you would like to do the migration. So this is what we do. We help people work in different platforms in a very efficient way.
Now, that's such an interesting problem to solve because it's a very necessary problem, right? A lot of companies, these IT budgets, sometimes I feel like I don't understand the inefficiencies of like let's just buy every tool that's out there, right? And so you buy everything. You buy the HubSpots. You buy the right like the you were saying the Salesforce, the ServiceNow, the Asana, the Azure DevOps. You buy everything because every team is so unique, allegedly, right? And everybody just kind of goes out and does their thing. Especially maybe when the companies have been a little bit more nimble. Like
Hmm.
somebody will say like I want this tool, and another team, or maybe you go through acquisitions, right? Through mergers and acquisitions, and
Oh
this
yeah, that's another
company
point.
that company had this tool, now we have this tool. So your tool is a great idea of the sense of like rather than duplicating the data, let's unify the data, right?
Yes, and I really enjoy the conversations with our clients because oftentimes they saw, like they let me know what the real value behind the product is. And at first, I thought that it's saving people's time because instead of doing the things manually, copying and pasting, you can just use the tool. But one of the customers said it's not really about that. It's about making sure that the data are being transferred in a full way. So that means that people can make mistakes, people can skip the things, and the tool won't do it, right? So in this case, it's more reliable, and you can have a tool that is integrating the data behind the scenes. So most of the people like benefiting from this tool, they are not even like seeing the UI or just doing its magic in the back, but still they get this data transferred in almost like a real time, in exactly the way that it's supposed to being transferred without losing any data in the transition. And every department can benefit from the best tool there is, right? Sometimes like big corporations, they really like to have a support team using a certain tool, developers team another tool, and then the management would like to get the data from all around different sources for the reporting purposes or managing it all at scale.
But this is a hard problem to solve because
It is.
you need to be really good not just at Jira and understanding the core foundations of Jira, but then for every tool you're integrating with, you need to have a really good intimate understanding of how their data is managed and handled
Mhm.
and everything. So why what was the motivation behind like I feel like if you could have solved any problem in the world, you picked the hardest problem to solve. Why?
Maybe because we were observing this market for some time with my co-founder, Radek, and we simply thought that integrations is this must-have thing. The thing that whenever we will solve it right, it will be a business critical application that will really help the people. So instead of doing the applications that you can either have or don't, you can use any other application on the market. We wanted to have the application that will solve real problems. And in this end, we will be just engaging in the conversations about the topics that are like uh, really painful for some people, and they would really like to get a solution for it. So integrations was exactly the thing that we identified as the thing that we can somehow redefine, because of course there were other solutions on the marketplace. We weren't the first one. Sometimes we are the third one, sometimes the fourth solution. So we knew that we had to try harder, as this famous advertising from, I guess it was Avis back then, right? So we knew that we had to create a better product, create a better proposition. And then the most important factor is that the way we reach to the people is not, we never sell this solution. We are always engaging in a conversation, building relations. So what my mentor once said, it's not B2B, it's not B2C, it's age to age, it's human to human. So we knew that what we are doing now, and also like by building the team, we just help people, we engage in the conversations, and in most of the cases it just happens that the tool as is able to solve the issues. But if not, we are able to offer the services, the custom development and other things. So we are solving the hard topic, but this is what brings the joy. You're not just reselling the same stuff every time, but you're just engaging in solving the problems, which I think is pretty fun.
Your definition of fun is much different than mine. Because like like I was saying, right, and then just to kind of dig deeper into this, right? Like every tool does the data their way, right? Like it's a different data
Yes.
model, but you need to be able to do the translation,
Yes.
right? You're creating like a mapping or some sort of like a Rosetta Stone of saying like, hey, here's this tool, here's Jira, here's how they talk or here's how they can't talk, and
Yes.
it's an interesting problem to solve. Now you're saying you're sometimes you're the third, second, fourth vendor to offer that integration solution. How do you see your guys' app when it comes to that user experience? Maybe the pricing, like how do you model yourself or set yourself up in a situation so that you can exceed?
Mhm. So we identified that whenever the people start engaging with the integration, it starts with a simple case, the simple need. Someone in the business identifies the need for the integration, they request the application. And there are people, mostly technical ones, Jira admins, consultants, engaged in like looking for a solution. So the first thing they look is to simply uh, making sure that it's possible. So achieving the MVP of the integration. So what we did with the product is that we help them make the connections and then the first integration to so that the task is moving from one side to another in a very easy, very nice looking, very fast way. And then we help them scale from this moment to more advanced cases that will come. So once the teams learn that one task can move from, let's say, Jira to ServiceNow or Jira to DevOps pretty easily, then they can start complicating things, adding more complexity on top of this basic scope. And this is the place where we also help them with the guidance. So with our clients, we are engaged on the very basic phases when they do the research, then on the onboarding calls when we help them set up the tool, and then on any other part when we work with the stakeholders to help them add complexity and address more complicated cases. Sometimes it happens that the product is not yet ready because this is an edge case, and then we can engage and help them with the custom development offering to add the support for the features that are missing. So this is the part that we help our customers at any particular stage. So at first it's very easy and nice to use, and once the customer is ready to buy the solution, they like the fact that they can install the application on like two sides. So if you integrate Jira and ServiceNow, you can just install this on the Jira side. Nothing on the ServiceNow is needed. And also you pay very easily just directly via the Atlassian marketplace as for the Jira, as for the any other solution. So it's very easy to get, very easy to use, and then also very easy to maintain. Because for me, the good definition of a tool is that it's the one that works well in the background. You don't have to really care about it, right? It's
Yeah,
not your Instagram. You don't have to check, oh, how my integrations are doing. It,
yeah.
set it
And I
up and
love
forget.
I love how you're using the word very easy, right?
Yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very
So
easy.
we thought that things are easy, and then I like to verify this with the customer. And in the end, what we thought was easy sometimes isn't, right? So then we also get new people on board. We let them to try the tool and they get back with the feedback. And then we identified that there is a case with like still setting up the basic integration, understanding the definitions. So we introduced the quick build, the feature that you just click the button and it builds the integration for you. And it also not just builds the integration for you, but it helps you understand the complexities, the way it works. It's like engaging in a conversation, right? You have one person and another person, so one tool, another person, and you have to build like a dictionary to make sure that they can understand each other, even though they use a different language, right? So
Right.
it's
That's
a
what I'm
cool
saying.
story.
That's like the hardest part of the problem. Now, when you started your company, is that where you started? Like, did you set off on day one? We're gonna just make our lives a living hell and do the hardest possible thing we could do inside of the world of Atlassian.
Yes, so we wanted to start with the integration. That was like the very first case that we just decided to go with, and then we got the first customer. And even now, I think that the first case that we got was still one of the hardest that we ever got, and it was the customer that wanted to migrate from Connect All and integrate single Jira service now, instances, real life data exchange, on-premise deployment, 24/7 support. And I have to say, it was like with this case with Bill Gates that you had sometimes ago. They just agreed on the things that they weren't really prepared to agree for, but let's just do it, right? YOLO.
YOLO.
YOLO. And we
I've
did
never
it.
I've never heard of an Atlassian manager say, you know what, YOLO, let's just see what happens.
But this is the spirit that we fought, that we are fighters. And in this case, it was a really hard, challenging two months to make sure that we can meet the scope and to prove that 24/7 support is not really the thing that they need because the tool is reliable enough that the basic support is just fine. But yeah, and then we got a really nice review, and based on this review, we did a case study, and this case study helped us got another customers, and now we are on the market for like more than 4 years, and this customer is still with us. We are engaged in more conversations, more topics. So yeah, this is the things that are making me happy. Those like happy customers in the end, those challenging things, and then the end the relation that keeps going.
And this is why we don't have time for the podcast.
Yes, exactly. So
Did,
customers comes first in this case.
did you anticipate this growth? Like, did you anticipate that that the popularity of your app, or what were your did it exceed your expectations?
Um, I have to say it did. So I really, we really wanted to make this application a pretty big thing in the way it could be big, right? Because it's a niche. You can't expect it to be another Drawio or another big tool that is on the marketplace. But within our possibilities, within the margins that we have, I would say it did succeed. And we have 3,000 plus installations right now after 4 years. And if you compare our growth to the backbone, XLA, TFS for Jira, which is pretty steady, we are growing pretty fast, 100% year by year. So, in our terms, it is a big success. And when I see the customers that we are working with, it really makes me proud. So whenever I go with my daughter and we like just open the fridge or go to the shop and just drive a car, I can see that, oh, this is the customer I'm working for. This is the customer your daddy was talking like yesterday. And it's like it is like it is something that really like give me wings in a sense, right? That it is already pretty big, but I think that it can be like 10 times bigger.
Yeah. And I love what you were saying about that pride of, hey, your dad works on this, or your dad works with the people that make this, right? It's really
Yeah.
interesting. I have a very similar. My wife and I, we used to work in the defense world, so aircrafts and airplanes, and just just Friday, just a couple days ago, there's a Air Force base very close to my house. I didn't even realize it was like 20 minutes away. And
Okay.
on that Air Force base, they have an Air Force museum, so they have a lot of the planes. And so, again, my wife and I, the background that we have, we were driving down, and there was a C-17. It's a cargo plane that the Air Force uses, and I worked on that. That was my very first plane, and there's something special about being able to tell your child, like, hey, look, like, not that one specifically, but like, I, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at all the moving parts that bring things together, right? Like, I helped with that, right? And your app helps businesses all around the world be more efficient. So even though it's like not directly, but very indirectly, you can definitely say like we help move the needle forward, right? Because again, anytime you have inefficiencies, anytime you have miscommunication, right, or opportunities to duplicate data in a bad way, right?
Yes.
Then it's not good for a business, right? It makes it harder to put products out that people want and need out there. So
Yes.
interesting observation.
So we know we are not changing the world in a sense, right? And you always you would like to do something that will change the world. So I know that definitely this is not a thing, but we are satisfied that we are just making some parts of companies like in a slightly more effective, better way. So in a sense, we know that our customers are doing the big things, sometimes changing the world, and we are helping them with just a single step. But for us, this is the most important step we can do.
Now, you're obviously growing tremendously, right? The podcast has had to take a backseat due to the growth. How do you how do you build your team? Like, how do you grow and scale your team? What's your guys's plans there?
So we started with the support team because this is what most of our customers will just highlighting that support they got the really good support. But when we got more customers, we are struggling with this for a bit because. We had to put all hands in to just focus on the support team. So we started building the support team first, and we were hiring mostly for the character, for this likability. So we wanted to have people that are skilled, of course, but the people that you can easily like, the people that you would like to work with, the people that will never say to you that this is as is, but what can we do for you? How can we help you with? And so that we hired for this spirit in a sense. So now we have three people, two of them from Brazil, so Meira and Chris and Jesus from Venezuela. Then we started hiring for the growth because when we were able to handle the big load on the support people just wanting to see the product to do the demos, now we had to focus on bringing more to build the awareness around the tool. And the next step that is currently also being in process, we are strengthening the development team to start developing more integrations, more tools to challenge more markets, more applications. Yeah, so this is mostly how we build this stuff. So we always know that we can learn a thing, like teach a thing, because when it comes to the integrations, as you know, it's a niche, right? You can't really learn those stuff. So we know that we get to get the good people that we will teach how the business works, how the application works. So mostly we hire
Yeah.
for this.
But I would assume you have a big scalability problem, no? Because like each integration, I would assume that the basics, right? You said you have that MVP of like, let's get two tools to talk to each other.
Mhm.
Awesome. I think that part's doable, easy, right? But the devil's in the details, right? Like it's a saying here in English that like when you start past that first step, right, things get very complicated very quickly, right? And I would assume that you have to spend a tremendous amount of time with each client to kind of take care of their edge cases, or is that not a thing?
It's not really a thing. We have some customers that we have to work hard on the edge cases. Usually big corporations. And recently, with one of the biggest company there is making phones, we had a case that. The amount of people within the Jira instance was really, 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 really huge. So just to load the assignees to the assignee fields to enable the mapping, it's a really huge challenge because it takes eternity. It's not really effective. So when we have a case like this, we always have to take a step back, brainstorm and think about the solution. And then of course, we found the solution to just load the assignees assigned to a certain project, not to the whole instance. So sometimes we have the edge cases. The people are able to just set up the tool, test the tool, and once they deploy this on production, it just stays there, right? They're just making updates from time to time. They're just adding more integrations, more projects, but it's just keep going without
Mhm.
the need of us assisting the customers. So in this case, that's pretty good for us because we are engaged in the very basic first steps with the customers, and once they understand how the tool works, they can just easily proceed with anything else.
We're coming back to our common thing of very easy, right? And I think that's
Again, yeah.
so and I think this is why it's good to have variety in that Elastic marketplace, right? Because I usually, as a Jira admin, right, I'm trying all the apps. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with the one that's easiest, right? Because this is a hard thing, right? Like I'm sounding like a broken record. I'm like, you're solving a very hard problem of getting two tools to talk to each other. And as a Jira admin, that's a scary ask as well, right? For me to integrate two tools because ultimately I have no control of the Jira admin, right? I'm at the mercy of what does Atlassian allow you, right? Getint, the makers of this app, what does Atlassian allow you to do from the API perspective, and what does that other company allow you from an API perspective, right? So, so it's all outside of my scope of like my skill set and stuff like that. So it's already a scary thing, and like I was saying, right, like when the app is easy to use, it kind of starts bringing that fear down because it
It
starts giving
is.
you confidence. I'm like, oh, this is not too bad. I can do this.
But there's this catch that when we say easy, sometimes when you are dealing with more technical people, they're afraid of easy because easy sometimes means limited. So I can easily handle a basic case, but what happens if my case will just gets pretty complicated? Will you be able to handle this? And we always like have this balance that we want this tool to be easy to use but powerful enough to handle complicated cases, right? So we can use the UI, and on top of it you can use the scripting. Some of our competitors, they just, whenever you would like to get almost anything done, you have to start from scripting and continue with scripting. And some technical people like this because that means they are needed, like I'm the only one that can write the scripts. We try to do it in a way that any business person would like is able to handle most of the cases and still will need the technical people, the tech guys, to involve them in more complicated cases. But
So you have a
still, we
hard
don't
mode.
want. Yeah, the code we need them at some point, but the case is that we don't want the integration to be the one person able to manage this a bottleneck, right? So when you have a lot of teams, each requesting changes in the integration, it can quickly become a nightmare, and then instead of like bringing happiness to the people, you bring irritation. That's not the thing that we ever wanted to do. This is
Okay.
this balance to make easy, but also um, uh, technical enough so the technical people would like it.
Yeah, and it's an interesting balance, right? Because like you said, I had not considered your case of like, for me, I love easy, right? I think easy for me from an end user, it means I don't have to worry about it because it should be intuitive, even though there's a very hard problem again that you're solving. But then I can see that perspective of like a power user and saying like easy means I might not be able to do what I want to do because what I think I want to do is hard. So I think really your
Yes,
marketing job is to basically say, hey, we can do the hard stuff easily.
exactly. Oh, yeah. So now I'm going to use this one. But also
Speaking
the
of which,
case is the
speaking of
case is
which,
yeah.
go
Go on.
ahead. No, 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 you go, you go.
So I just wanted to share that also when it comes to the easy, it's easy on this level of the conversation when you are talking to the people that also knows their stuff. So you mentioned that we are doing this API stuff, right? API to the Jira, API to another tool, let's say ServiceNow, DevOps, Salesforce, or any other solution, but still we're limited to those. So the conversation is easy on the level when we know the limitations of what we do, right? Because sometimes it's really hard to talk to the people that are just expecting a lot and the magic will happen itself, and we can't do it, right? Because we simply can do whatever is possible to be done within this limitation. So also we have to do a lot of work to just educate the people about the possibilities and the differences between the tools. So you can't just make one tool look exactly like the other one, right? So you have to just make compromises and do the mapping in a correct way to just let them talk to each other in a way that is possible to be done, right?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, speaking of influences that I have in your life, I remember way back early when I was using your Jira to Jira integration. I think you had just called Jira Jira, right? Or something like that. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. It should be Jira to Jira. And
Yes.
like 2 minutes later, you're like, refresh your screen. And I'm like, what? And then you added the Jira to Jira. How does that how did that happen? How do you typically get feedback from your community?
So we work in a way that our tool is feedback driven. It's like everyone says this, but in our case, it's really important. So we know that when we are challenging the older players on the marketplace, we didn't have the capacity, we didn't have the team to make the tool exactly alike, like simply the team and the products that were longer on the marketplace. So we decided to start work in a way that we would deliver the basics, and then on each and every case that we will have with the customer, we would keep adding the features in exactly the direction that the customers would like it to evolve. So that's why we have the backlog of the things that we want to do, but whenever we get the feature request, it always gets a prior. And in this case, we could pretty quickly close the gap between us and the competitors, even though had the same amount of features that they did, because they had a lot of features nobody was ever using. So in this case, mm, again we are back in the relations and this human to human topic, right? That what I was struggling with before in different working from different companies, different vendors, was that when you do the nice to have applications, you can't really make a relation, because if that's a very easy application to do, even if you will email the person that you get the email from the marketplace, nobody is even responding to you. It's just not worth it. When you do the integrations or any other like business critical thing, you have to make a relation with those people to help them implement the solutions. But based on this, you can easily get a feedback and a case study. And this is what helped us grow. Currently, we have like 30 case studies of happy customers that decided to tell their story. And it was possible only because we had the opportunity to make a demo, to then make an get the feedback. And this was possible because the case is not easy, right? So even though the tool is pretty easy to use, the case may not be easy, and you still have to learn, right? So this is the opportunity to make the relation happen. And yeah, this is why we can grow, because of course we can have some ideas how to make the product better, but our customers have much more ideas than this, right? And we can emulate the environment of ServiceNow, DevOps, and others, but it still is going to be some kind of a fiction. The real life cases, the real customers that bring the value, that we couldn't think of like just discovering
Yeah,
ourselves.
and that's kinda what maybe that's what I was trying to convey earlier, right? Because I was telling you, like, from a customer remember I was talking about scalability, right? Like, from a customer to customer perspective, I would imagine that no 2 problems are usually the same or exactly the same, right? Like, everybody might have, like, their own little slight little spin. It's a very similar problem, but I would assume that every company just ever so subtly has a different, slightly unique case that requires you to go, "Hmm, let me think about that for a second," right?
It is, but it's a journey that I think any founder or a product manager has to also go through. That at first we were just getting everything that we got. So whenever the customer got a request, we weren't asking questions. We were just doing. That it was possible when you have like 50 customers, 100 customers, that you can do those things. But when you have thousands and you're building a product, then you have to change your the way you do those things because uh, we started asking questions, and then we discovered that even though at first it looks like a different case, when you ask the right questions, it's all about the outcome, not about the activities that the customer would like to do. And then we could just educate them in how we thought it's going to be it could be handled. And then in most of the cases it was already in the product, so simply the customer would like to take some steps. But if we will think about the outcome, then we can advise to make this outcome in just using different steps, right? So it was all about not just doing the thing that the customer is simply asking for, but understanding this from the product perspective and over like
Yeah.
the approach, like thinking about the scale and every customer, not every single one, because having you know plenty of custom deployments, it would be a nightmare to maintain, and yeah, it would be hard.
So let's talk about pricing a little bit. How do you price your things? Because you're dealing with 2 tools,
Yes.
right? And so do your customers have to pay for the integration for both tools? Do they pay for just a get-in subscription that they can then subscribe or
Mhm.
get whatever apps they need? Or what does your pricing look like?
So it's an interesting topic because we still think what would be the best approach, and we still try to learn. But our approach was that the people want to get the integration to solve the case of needing to work together, and it has to be just an easy implementation. In a case that also it has to be easy to pay for it. So some other solutions that you can get outside of the marketplace, like Zapier, Unito, and others, they charge you based on the amount of data that you integrate. So the more you integrate, the more you pay. But in our perspective, it doesn't really make that much sense, because at some point you integrate so much that you want to limit the people to not integrate more, because you can't control the spendings, right, because of the scale. So we thought that you should get just one fixed fee and integrate as much as you wish, right, to be confident in the solution, to make sure that you can like evangelize it internally, offer the value. So this is it. So you just pay for a single add-on if you want to integrate like Jira with ServiceNow or Azure DevOps, and you can integrate unlimited amount of projects, unlimited amount of tasks, just within one instance of Jira and one instance of ServiceNow. This is this factor, right? We don't charge you for the ServiceNow connector extra, for DevOps connector extra. And the way we built the price was just the thing that we were experimenting with different like price points to see where the pain point is and where the value is and what people are considering a value, and also benchmarking to the competitors. And in the end, we came up with the pricing that you can see on the marketplace.
Interesting way to do it, right? Because Jira's I'm not I don't like Atlassian's marketplace pricing, right? Because if you have like a 2,000 person company and you only need 5 people to sync something, you're paying
Yes.
for 2,000 users, right? And it's a very interesting business model that usually a lot of the feedback, and again, it's not anything specific to your app, but just within the Atlassian ecosystem, the biggest feedback I get from people is like, I only need 10 people to do this. Like I don't need 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or whatever number of user licenses I have.
It happens very often in our case as well. A huge company, and you would only want to integrate your support team with some external company, right? And what's the point of paying that much for the whole instance? But then we also believe in the value-based pricing. So we talk to the customer, we try to understand the case, and in many cases we offer a custom price or a discount. So we treat our pricing as the base, and then based on this base, whenever there is a custom case, we also try to approach this with the with this custom approach, because otherwise we wouldn't be selling licenses, and in the end it's all about the relation. So with let's say Lufthansa, we had this case that they were just needing this for the proof of concept, so we offered them a much better price in the beginning. They offered us a case study, so it was also a big plus for us, because having this kind of like a big customer help us win others. And the project evolves, we learn, they learn, the adaptation is growing, and then we at some point we will be able to instance. But it doesn't make sense, especially in these huge corporations, right? So yeah, I would say you have to be flexible, right? You have to listen to the customers and adapt to what they are saying.
Very critical, and I think and I think it's something that, again, you're still retaining, right? Because what the words that are coming out of your mouth, they're I don't wanna make this light, right? Like, they're easy for you to say today, but as
Hmm.
you're seeing, right, as you continue to grow this business, it gets harder, right? It gets harder to solve everybody's problem, right? At some
It
point, you
is.
have to make a call. You have to make a determination of like, "Hey, this is gonna solve like 80% of the solution," as opposed to when you're small and nimble. Like, I think you can very, very quickly react to that feedback. Like, when I told you, "Hey, that Jira to Jira doesn't make sense," you're like, "Okay, give me a minute." Like, it'll be fixed, right?
Yes.
When you have 5, 10, 15,000 customers, it's not that easy to go, "Oh, give me a minute." Like,
Oh yes, oh yes, and I remember when I was on every call, on every support ticket that was requiring a custom approach, and now I can't do it any longer, right? So I have to teach the team the approach that I was having, and give them the confidence and the power to just adapt and just offer custom things. But in the back of my head, I would still like to be everywhere, and still we are not a very big company, right? Hopefully we will be bigger one day. And this is coming back to the first topic that we had about the how the whole marketplace was evolving. At first summits, I remember talking to the founders of every particular add-on, because they were there, right? And now they are just teams of founders, like the founder is somewhere there, and then it has he she has teams, different people, and so many people around. Yeah, so I guess that's also probably would be the path that we would have to take
it's
and
it's a
adapt.
good it's a good problem, and I think one that a lot of people maybe you aspire to as well, right? Like, one day I would love to form a team and have, like, a whole thing going, but it's scary, right? Like, so how do you trust? Like, how do you build this trust between you and the folks you're hiring to say, "Hey, I trust you to treat the customer the way I would," knowing that
That's
they're not you?
yeah. Of course, but when you ask me how we hire the people, I told you that we hire mostly because of the spirit and this approach. So I think that when we have a similar approach, it's like much easier to trust someone.
But
And also,
but spirit is one thing, right? Like, you just said, right? Like, when you approach your customers, I'm assuming, right? Like, one, this is your baby, right? Like,
yeah,
you're gonna approach her from the sense of like all the stakes are on the table because this is my baby, this is my brand, this is an image of almost an image of that represents my culture, like my values, right? Like of who I want to be through an app. But a hire
yes,
doesn't have that attachment, right? Like a hire is just this is just a job, even though you have a positive spirit and you have a curious spirit, but like at the end of the day, it's not their baby. So how do you balance that
yeah.
out?
So we look for the people that has a good energy. So in a sense, I know that this is like the baby of Radek's mind, but I think that the team that we have like cares in a similar way that we do. And also we do it in a way that we give them the power to make the decisions, but whenever they feel that something is not going right, that they can always like mention me, escalate me. They're not afraid to do this, because that's a natural thing. Then I would step up, talk to the customer and to them, and just make sure that it works. And even though if they will make a mistake, that's also the plus when you just sell the licenses, right? When I would be selling the services, I would have a lot of people to pay to pay the salaries. And when it comes to the licenses, like much bigger margin of making the mistakes when it comes to the pricing, because in most of the cases, if you sell the license for X or 2X or 3X, it's it's of course important, but it's not huge if you will make a mistake in one or two pricings, right?
Mhm.
So I would say that's okay. And this is also what's not easy for me, but thankfully, when I was working for another companies in my life, I had a very good people that hired me and was just guiding me. So I had to learn this trust, and I saw that they were struggling with this trusting, and they had to trust me and other people. And in the sense, I could see their journey, and it gave me the power to now be in the
Yeah.
position where I have to hire. So I would say it's all people's business, right? So if you can't trust, maybe you shouldn't work with people.
Now let's talk about a little bit more on relationships, right? So you are a co-founder, so that means there's another
Yes.
half out there, right? Where did you find your co-founder? How did you know that this was it? Like this was the person you were going to partner up with to do this?
Radek and I, we were working for the same company some time ago before the COVID. And we had similar spirits, similar characters. So we are playing FIFA. We are very competitive, and we liked it in a good, positive way. So we weren't like fighting, but we were competitive, and we liked this part of each other characters, right? So we always wanted to push each other's to some limits. So when the COVID started, Radek and I, we decided that we won't be like watching Netflix. How about we start the company together? And this is why we give it a shot. And it's very good that it is a successful company, but the beginnings weren't very easy. And what's good in this relation is the fact that again, it's about the trust and about the thing that you have to like each other to work together that um, and you have to be a bit different. So our recent hire, Renata, I'm now involving her in the demos that we are doing. And when she was looking at me and Radek at the same call, she then shared the observation that you're so different. And Radek is like a mastermind. You can looking at him, you can see how he thinks, how fast he thinks, how intelligent you are, and you are this spirit, this character, this you're all around. You're just very easy to like to, and this is the thing that Radek is handling the technical part. He developed this application. He's extremely intelligent, uh, and I'm like liking people, and people like me. And in this sense, I'm building relations
You
and
you take
um,
care of the H to H.
kind of stuff exactly right. So this is the part that you have to have an amazing solution that solves the problem, but you need to still be able to build relations and reach to the people, help them use this one, and like share the story around it and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, right? Like you I'm always very curious about co-founders, right? Because working with people is hard. Like you were saying
Yes.
that H to H, right? Let's talk about that for a second, right? Like the human element of any work, I think, is the hardest part about any work. Because
Yes.
as humans, we have so many variables that impact our lives, our decisions, our moods, right? The things we're interested in, the things we're not interested in. Like your kids, if you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you're about to have a kid, if you have a sick kid, like all of that influences your behavior for that day,
Hmm.
right? And and working with people is it's a very interesting balancing act of compromises, and you really got to like really want to work with these people in order to turn the cheek when it's appropriate, or lend a helping hand when appropriate, right? And when it comes to co-founders, right? Like I feel like that problem is exasperated like 100x, right? Because now it's almost like a marriage, right? It's almost like you're building a baby together, right? Like you're raising a
Sometimes it's even stronger than a marriage, right?
yeah, sometimes something well, from a business perspective, it has to be stronger than a marriage,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a very interesting thing. Like I co-founded this whole thing with my wife, but to me it felt natural because we already compromise on everything, right? We already learned to
Hmm.
work together. We've been married for 14 years here,
Oh
and so
wow! Congratulations.
thanks. And so to me, like it feels natural to that we can challenge each other, we can work together, we think alike, we have very similar backgrounds. But I would be very scared to try to even build something with someone that's not my wife, because I'm like, well, there's gonna be problems, right? So how do you guys deal with your differences of opinions, or just challenges that pop up there, and you're like, I don't know about that idea.
Maybe we are just having a lot of luck, but I think that along those time we never had a disagreement. We
You gotta
never
knock on
fought.
some wood. You got wood somewhere? Are you superstitious?
It's like the thing that we just
It's
have
healthy
each other's.
debate though, right? I'm assuming you have to have healthy
Yeah,
debate.
we do, but the case is that we have the areas. Radek is focusing on the technical stuff, and we like brainstorm all those things. But the decision is his, and I'm brainstorming about all the other factors like
Growing the
marketing,
business.
sales, growth, people, making decision to support something or not, do the custom development or not, the pricing decisions, and all those stuff. So we brainstorm on every particular factor, but we know where the decision points are.
I was gonna say, well, what happens when you start promoting features that don't exist?
I try not to do it, but the nice thing is that whenever I'm just making a mistake with my like customer, just offering stuff that weren't in the product, because now when we have like 15 different applications, plenty of things, it's really hard to just keep track of every deployment, every release that is happening every 2 weeks. But luckily, Rad understands this and he has my back, so he just add this feature, right? If I will promise something that is not there. Same goes if I
Or
will promise something.
update the title of the app in Jira.
Oh, just quickly, yeah. Same goes with that whenever Rat estimated something to happen within a week, let's say, and we know that it's much harder than this, right? I will always just jump on a call, talk to the customer, calm him, her or him down, and explain the things, so those frustrations wouldn't get to Rat, right? So in this case, it's all about it's like brother to brother, right? First
Yeah,
things we have to protect this relationship, and you can't let it happen that any money or any customer or any frustrations will enter into this particular relation, because another customer, you have another case, you may lose this money on this particular stuff, but you won't win back the relation that you had. So in this case, we protect this relation, and nothing really can make this like weakens this. So I think
yeah,
this is right. So you know that you did this with a person you trust, with your brother, with your friend. You started with just earning nothing and investing a lot of time, and in this case, probably you were doing the same stuff, right? So you were doing this as a side job while doing something else, right? So it was your extra time, your investment. And in this case, if somebody is willing to just do it for free, like for something in the future which is uncertain, I think that it tells a lot, right? That you can just invest your time in doing things for uncertain future, right? Which is always related to building a business, right? It may work, it may not work, right?
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's again, it's deeper than just surface. Like you really both have to equally care for this creation. And I think it's something that's doable. I think a lot of people, I don't know if you read, there's a book that says ego is the enemy. I think is the title of the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Ego is the enemy. I'm looking over my bookshelf.
Okay.
And like I think as co-founders, I like I've been in so many meetings where there's so many alphas in the room. And because you have these alpha leader type of people, it's hard to make progress because everybody's ego wants to be the right one, right? Like everybody's opinion needs to be the correct method. And I walk away from those meetings with like my heart kind of broken because having too many alphas, and this is again, this is kind of where I'm going back to like the co-founder aspect of it, right? Like I think it's a tricky situation to navigate through because by default, having two co-founders means you have two alphas. You have it's like it's what it is, right? And and it's an interesting dynamic where that requires you to be very disciplined, right? Very non-egotistical as well, so that you can make it work. And I think a lot of people say, oh, like, oh, a lot of businesses fail, right? And I don't think they fail because they had a crappy idea. Usually they fail because they couldn't work together, in my opinion, right? Like I've never seen it. I couldn't tell you with facts and data, right? But I would suspect that a lot of businesses usually fail. I would assume it's the human element of it, not
It
the
is.
not
Oh,
the
also
financial
the
aspect.
money element, right? Because at some point you start to earn some money, you start to spend some money.
But
Some people
that's
just
but even the money spending goes back to the human part of it, right? Because as a
it is
group, you figure out as a team, you figure out what do we spend money on, and as a
yes.
team, you make the product better to yield more money, right? So I still think even though it's money related, money problems are still a big problem, but the money problems I still would think stem off of the discipline of those co-founders.
Yes, and also of the definition of the win, because you mentioned that it's about the ego and to alphas, and we are also like I consider like Radek and me in a sense as two people with a very big ego and an alphas in a sense because we were competitive even before we started the
Right, yeah.
company. But the case is that how will you define a win, right? And for us, the win is growing this company together, not
For the
like
greater good. You gotta make
for the
compromises
greater
for the
good.
greater good,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And I think a
sometimes
lot of
I will
people
just
miss that.
shut up, even though it hurts my ego, but I know it just benefits the company and the thing that we do together. So in the sense, it's a win for my ego, right? Because the company grow, I'm proud of it. As you mentioned, it's my little child. So
You get to
if
take
it
your
wouldn't be
daughter
growing,
yeah, you get to
yeah.
take your daughter out for ice cream because you got money to take her out to ice cream.
Oh, and then we also like Radek and I. We both have small kids. They like each other. We like to go together on just some vacations and stuff. So
Were you
the
guys so how
company
long
and
so
like
you were only coworkers then, right? You weren't like childhood friends or anything? You just met at work?
sorry, once again.
Your co-founder, you met at work,
Yes.
so not before I would assume not
No.
early in your childhood
No,
or
no, no, no. It was just like I would say about 10 years ago, more or less,
that's
and we were
that's
working together.
that's
Yeah,
committed though. That's the 10-year relationship. That's deep.
that's deep. Yeah, and then also we are very same age. It's just a few days difference. So we are at the same stages of our lives, right? So
Yeah,
we met our partners, we had kids, we started thinking about flats and first cars and stuff. So it was good to share not just the things related to the job, but also all the struggles related to the life, right? And since we are spending so much time together, you have to be able to share the moments in your life, right? So in this case, if you're like in a totally different points in your life, it's really hard to talk to get
yeah.
conversation
I
going.
I love that though because it almost makes you guys like brothers,
Kind of, yeah.
right? And I'm an only child, so I've always, I guess, longed for that brother type of friendship. And my wife and I were very opposite. She has 3 sisters, and she could go weeks, months, years not talk to her
Okay.
sisters. In fact, just yesterday, my mother-in-law, she saw her brother for the first time in 15 years.
Whoa.
And to me, it's like, how does that even happen? Like, I don't know that I would be able to go a day without talking to a sibling, right?
Oh, it's
Um,
not that I have two siblings as well, and with one of them I have a pretty close relationship. We just understand each other, and I'm referring to my brother. But when it comes to my sister, we can not we can talk just 2 3 times a year. But whenever there's some crisis, we can count on each other, right? So she knows she can always call me, and I will go and fight for her, whatever it takes, right? So
right,
this is when it comes to your friends, right? And I would say sometimes it's just much easier because you can choose your friends, and then you can choose your friends based on the moment your life and you are in your life and the things that you do, and then you can just change the friends, and it really depends. But when you have the sisters, the brothers, you're just stuck with them, and sometimes nothing really like connects you when it comes to the moments in life. The past is the past that you choose, right? But still there's blood and you will do anything for each other, but it doesn't mean you have to have this ongoing relationships to call each other every day, which you can have with your co-founder or your friend, right?
right. But that's what I'm saying. But with your co-founder, you kind of almost want to emulate that brothership or sistership, right? Because you almost need it to build a company, and it makes me think about like Scott and Mike,
Yes.
right? And how Scott stepping away. My initial reaction with Scott stepping away was like, I think something happened, right? Like,
After
I
so
don't.
many years.
After so many years, like I would think that there's like maybe it's just the negative thoughts in my mind of Scott and Mike. There must have been a conversation that one of them didn't like the outcome enough to walk away because I would feel like when you build a baby like Jira, and in your case like your apps, right? Like I want to walk away from it.
Maybe you don't, but I think that this is our perspective because we're still, let's say, fighting for our place in this world, uh, still trying to achieve a lot of those things, still think about growth, and what they achieved is huge, right? They don't have to prove anything. They have everything they ever wanted. So I think that maybe at this point in time, they can just focus on the different things, right? Maybe one of them would still focus on the and another would like to do something better for the world, right? Not really related to the business itself, because I think that they achieved everything there was to achieve, right? So now they can do anything they want.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So I know we only got a couple minutes left here. Did you get a chance to go to team this year?
No, but I
Okay, good.
plan to go to Barcelona, and I already booked a hotel to another summit in States. I know it's going to be close to your place because we talked about it.
Yeah.
So I really hope that we will hang out.
Okay, good. I'm like, Team 24 was a blur to me. Like, so a lot of people were like, I've had these conversations where like, we saw each other, Alex, at team. I'm like, that whole thing. So I'm like, I just wanted to make sure because I don't remember seeing you this year, and I just wanted to make sure we didn't just
I
walk back.
really wanted to go, but we had some urgent project. But what I really love about the team is not really the talks because they are fine, but it's all about these conversations, right? This networking, the events around, and I miss this one really much. So when I just learned that there is going to be a summit in Barcelona, I already booked a hotel. So I'm. Are you
Nice.
going to Barcelona?
We my team, so Rodney with the Jura Life, right? When with my
Hmm.
business with the Jura Life, we submitted for a talk. So
Okay.
we're gonna see. I don't have a passport.
Okay.
I don't have
But
a
I think that
passport.
could be fixed pretty easily.
It can. It definitely can. I don't know that I ever want to leave the country though, but they
Okay.
keep peer pressure me. If anything, I'll probably just send them out to Barcelona or Barcelona.
Oh, I think that you will, if you will come, I will show you some cool places and you
Some
will
cool
enjoy the
places.
Barcelona.
Have
Yes.
you been to Barcelona a bit? How far are you
uh,
from Barcelona?
I'm in the middle of Europe and they are just, so it's like a 4 or 5 hours flight. So I know that from the perspective of US, it's very, very close, right? But when it comes to Europe, it's a really huge distance.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna
still,
say, well, 4 or 5
Barcelona.
hours. It's yeah, 4 or 5 hours is how long it takes me to go from one coast to the other.
Yes. So I will say maybe just 3 hours. So I would have, but it's not really that long. So yeah, but Barcelona is a beautiful city. So whenever there's a chance, it's good to
Well,
go there.
I I keep telling the guys I'm gonna go work on that passport. So maybe I don't think I would mind going to Barcelona because I speak Spanish, and so if I'm
Oh
gonna go,
yes,
yeah. So if I'm gonna go to a foreign country, it might as well be one that speaks English, like the UK, or Spanish, like Spain.
of
But
course.
I don't know that I would want to go to any of the other ones because I don't speak any of the other
Nice,
languages.
but Spain checks this one, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
you will like it a
I'm
lot.
gonna think about it harder, but we'll see.
Yeah, so think about it. Hopefully, we'll hang out, and if not in Spain, we will do it in States next year.
Awesome. Well, Jacek, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you, Alex.
I'm glad we got to spend a little bit of time to see some of the insight on
Yes.
how the apps were made and the thought process and all that. So appreciate you coming on and thanks.
Thank you, Alex. It was great talking to you as always, and see you. Bye bye. Hey.